Welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder. And look at what he's rocking today. He picked the Wolves. Nobody else did. And that is a beautiful piece of sartorial fashion that you're rocking there. A little Anthony Edwards. I love that.
The Timberwolves and we have a connection. They sent this to me either to try to get me to vote for them or because they knew deep down that I would take the Timberwolves against the Lakers and the T-Wolves would come through for me. But you taught me this lesson a year ago. I learned this lesson the hard way, not to doubt these guys.
I hate how the roles have been reversed. Last year, I was on the Wolves. This year, you were the only one in the entire CBS Sports Network family at CBSSports.com, the whole bit, that picked the Wolves. Really, the only one I could find any expert anywhere who picked them. I took the Lakers in 7. That did not work out well for me at all. But the Wolves moved on, and now all of a sudden they're your team.
Yeah, I got the shirt to print. But I don't know. I have to check. Maybe someone can effort. Is Ant currently wearing a Bill Ryder Beyond the Arc t-shirt? I don't know. Well, I hope so. We'll see.
I love that. After they unseated the Lakers, he was out in the streets in Los Angeles crowing about it. So yes, we have to get him some BTA swag so that he can wear that around Los Angeles. All right, later in the show, we're going to do the second round is underway. The Pacers beat the Cavs in Cleveland to take game 1. That was a great game. Plus, we'll do previews and predictions for the other second round series that kick off tonight between the Knicks and the Celtics and the Nuggets and Oklahoma City. But first, Bill, 2 game 7s from the weekend. Neither of them were all that exciting, frankly. We had the Warriors over the Rockets yesterday in game 7. We'll start there. The Warriors win that game 103-89. The Rockets only had 39 points at the half, Bill. These two teams have played 12 times this season. Warriors have bested them 7 times out of that. So pretty good showing for the Warriors, who are moving on. Top line takeaways from that. It looked like Steve Kerr, who has run big time, lengthy 11, 12-man hockey rotations, pulled a JJ Redick last night and just decided, nope, I got my 5 guys. I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, I mean, top line takeaways are the Warriors are who we thought they were, even if they stretched it to a game 7. We'll see if I'm this lucky or this good, this lucky. I have the Warriors going to the finals. I think that's their ceiling. And certainly Steph Curry, second half and fourth quarter in particular, underscored this. But I think for me, John, the main thing was, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Golden State, that they earned it, but also the Rockets fell, I think, short because of what we've discussed on the podcast time and again. They're great. They're young. They're amazingly athletic, and they're incredible defensively. They don't generate enough offense, especially in those sort of crunch time moments. They don't have a go-to closer, and they're young. It just felt like all of that finally caught up to them and confounded them in that critical game.
Yeah, tough game 7 for the Rockets. Great season. We can get into that in a second here. I would just want to touch on, you had the Warriors going to the finals in the Western Conference, which is interesting because you're rocking that Wolves t-shirt, and that series tips off tomorrow.
It's tricky.
And we're gonna preview that tomorrow at length. But I was thinking about the Warriors and how I had them winning this series in 6. It ended up going 7. Now all of a sudden they're on a collision course with the Wolves, who obviously have had a few days to rest. And the Warriors, I love their experience. I love their top line talent. Their defense is very good. This is a quick turnaround for them where all of a sudden they're like, we just came off a 7-game absolute knife fight. And here come the Wolves, who are ready and rested. And that's going to be a really good series. But I think that could be just like a little bit advantage Wolves there.
I think you're right. I mean, I keep saying this, but it's true for me. Other than Memphis, who's just sort of, abdicated any actual emotional or physical response in their opening round series, you could sort of make a case for all these teams in the Western Conference. And obviously the teams that have advanced look really good and really dangerous. And we'll talk all these series, and the Thunder have to first win their series. I understand that. But the winner of Wolves Warriors, there's whatever team wins that series, either one has a ceiling that for me includes a possibility of making the finals. I mean, especially in the West, there are 3 really good basketball teams left, and then a team that has Nikola Jokic. And I mean, that makes all 4 of those teams dangerous.
Yeah, for the next round, or for this round rather, Bill, Golden State and the Wolves, just the third time in NBA history that you've had a 6-7 matchup. So I am looking forward to that. But let's talk a little bit more about Game 7 here. So last night, Steph had a good game, double-double, almost a triple-double. Jimmy went for 28 and 7. Draymond had his best offensive game of the series. I thought he was terrible in the series offensively, except for last night. And also, by the way, there's an Athletic headline. I don't know if you read the Athletic today, but there's an Athletic headline about how Draymond really kept his temper and his composure in Game 7.
I saw it.
Okay. He also had 4 technicals and 2 flagrants, with both of which lead the NBA in the first round, 23 common fouls and 20 turnovers. But yes, Draymond kept his hands to himself in Game 7. And also, Bill, Buddy Hield. We got the Buddy Hield game. He went for 33 and he had 9 threes, which is tied for the most ever 3-pointers in a Game 7.
Yeah, and look, Steph was incredible late in the game. I think he had 19 second half points, and was it 14? I think John 14 in the fourth quarter. Buddy Hield kept the Warriors afloat. He kept him going. This was the long coveted Buddy Hield game, and I know that one time for Buddy Hield doesn't make a pattern. It doesn't make it a guarantee it'll happen again. But if you can get that kind of performance, especially offensively for Golden State, from guys not named Steph and not named Jimmy, and you noted that Draymond was really good offensively too. Again, the Warriors to me last night showcased why we should take them really seriously, whatever they're seeding. They do have that experience. You're right. They're going to be beat to hell from that series. And Houston, give them credit, made it really, really hard on them, fought back. I mean, what a tough way to go out, but that's a young team. I do think there's benefits in the long term, but Steph is still Steph. We've seen Jimmy Butler obviously has made this a top 5 team in sort of every metric going back to February 8th when he started. You've got a defense that is exceptional. It's the best in the NBA since Butler got into the starting lineup, which we've talked about. And then you have all these sort of random players, and maybe it's Pajemski one game, and maybe it's he didn't play because he was sick, but Gary Payton II can be sort of a catalyst, high-impact guy in certain moments. And I forgot about Buddy Hield as a guy that could take over a game. So if you're the Warriors, and this is such a big if, and our podcast producer Aaron, is shivering somewhere because he doesn't believe this is possible. But if Steve Kerr can get rotations right and sort of decisions on the margins right, can pull the right strings, what the Warriors did last night, whatever their obstacles, however worn out they are, this is what they're capable of.
Yeah, Buddy Hield, yet another example of a former Sixer who could not shoot in Philadelphia, going somewhere else and regaining his form. So congratulations to Buddy Hield and the Warriors. While we're on the topic of Steve Kerr and rotations, one Johnathan Kuminga got 7 minutes last night out of nowhere, 0 points. He was a DNP CD in games 1, 4, and 6. He was out for game 5 because he had a migraine. He did play in games 2 and 3, but only because Jimmy Butler was out with an injury. In those 2 games, Bill, he combined for 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. The Johnathan Kuminga story continues to be sort of befuddling. This offseason is going to be really interesting to see what they do with him.
Any word from local beat writers if he named his headache migraine Coach Kerr? I mean, they've lost him. I mean, look, whoever's to blame or not to blame, they have lost him. He's sleepwalking out there. I'm not really interested because I don't know enough in blaming Steve Kerr, or blaming Kuminga, or playing the whole it's the playoffs, you got to play hard. I mean, this guy basically was under the impression that he had no role on this team, and then they've thrown him in at times. Of course he's not going to perform. Whatever Steve Kerr is going to do, DNP the rest of the way through for Johnathan Kuminga makes sense because, John, I love Kuminga. Remember, you and I had this conversation for years. I was like, he can get there. He has a ceiling. I like what he can, the potential of what he can do. The time to try and reclaim that is not in these playoffs. The minute they just decided that he wasn't a part of the rotation, they should never put him back in.
They got to move on from him this offseason. Let's discuss the Rockets. So the Rockets, by all accounts, Bill, I think this is a good season for them. They won 52 games. They were the number 2 seed. You know how much I love the Rockets. They take the Warriors to 7 games. Look, it's a disappointing end and conclusion, and Game 7 wasn't very good. However, on the whole, I think like how they've taken steps forward consistently over these last 3 years. I mean, 52 games that they won this year. The year before they won 41 games, Bill. And the year before that, they won 22 games. The trajectory here is correct. And you're somebody who consistently has talked about how there's a learning curve in the playoffs. Well, okay, this is your first like graduate level course in postseason basketball.
I'll gently push back here. And I don't know, does my really mean-spirited column to start the season, in which I went to the Intuit Dome's opener and said, cool arena, mediocre basketball team still hold? Everything you said is true, but everything about the Clippers sort of ceiling, right, is predicated on Kawhi Leonard being healthy. And he was, I mean, he played the series. He was great, but I can't get my arms around believing that's going to be the case consistently. And then playoff James Harden, we need to talk about this, is just different than regular season James Harden. Again, didn't take that. I don't care about his assists. And you said this on HQ, and you were right. It's not just about creating for other guys and getting rid of the hot potato. He needed to be aggressive offensively. He took 8 shots. He took 4 threes. He barely made any of them. He wasn't present. So it's hard for me to get excited about the Clippers because if you can't do it coming off the year that Harden just had and a run, at least it's one round, but where Kawhi Leonard for that round was healthy and Norman Powell was so good and the defense was great, I mean, they could win 58 games next year. And I got to remind myself not to believe in them like I did this time around.
I totally agree with you on the Clippers. It's possible that I said the Clippers, but I meant the Rockets because I was talking about the Rockets there. So that's actually, I'll take the L on that. Let's take a quick break. Let's reset this because I want to talk about the Rockets, my Rockets. You know how much I like them, and just like what kind of offseason they might be looking at this year, because there's 2 different paths here that they could go, Bill. They could either try to take a big swing because they're loaded up with assets and try to bring in one of the big stars who might be available this offseason, or my preferred path, which is I don't think they should touch it, Bill. We'll discuss that after we take a quick break. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Just a reminder, you can also get us wherever you find your favorite podcast. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. We're going to get to the other Game 7 in just a second here between the Clippers and the Nuggets. Just want to go back to the Rockets, Bill, and their offseason. I thought that they had a super successful season. Number 2 seed in the West, in a very difficult West. Go 7 games with the Warriors. They won 52 games this year, 41 the year before, 22 before that. There's 2 different paths. Some people want them to go and take a big swing because they've got a lot of assets. They've got 5 tradable first-round picks, including this year's Suns pick, which at present, pre-lottery, is the 9th pick in the draft, plus 2 more Suns picks, plus a Nets swap in 2027, plus an unprotected Mavs first, Bill, in 2029 that is very tasty. And then they've got all these young players, and Thompson and Şengün and Jalen Green and Tari Eason and Reed Shepherd and Cam Whitmore, all of whom are 23 years old or younger. So I was texting with Sam Quinn a little bit about this last night, and like there have been all kinds of think pieces about this. Where do you stand on leaving this team alone and seeing what they can become, or maybe taking a big swing of, say, Giannis or KD or somebody of that magnitude becomes available?
I was team let it bake, and I thought they made the right decision to let it bake at the trade deadline and see where they were at and see what they could do. And now I think it's time to go and take a swing. And I know that they lost in a Game 7, but they're still only the 3rd 2 seed in the last 25 years to lose in the opening round. And not just that, I mean, they showcase, John, that they don't have enough veteran leadership. And Fred VanVleet's great, but he's not enough. And he's also a streaky shooter, so it sort of doesn't play well with some of their weaknesses because Jalen Green is supposed to be a streaky shooter, but it was mostly just being cold throughout this series. They're young. They don't generate enough offense. If you can get – it's interesting, right? And I'd be really interested in your view. Kevin Durant on paper solves so many more of their sort of problems and issues, but he's like 59 years old and he's not as durable as you would like. And Giannis maybe doesn't fit it in terms of what we think they need, but he is a closer. Right? He's not a shooter. He's not a shooter, but he's a closer, and he's a veteran. He's won an NBA championship. And so I think it also, if you can get Giannis, I'm here for it, right? You will be a top, even with the Thunder where they are and the Wolves on the march and whatever else happens in the West, you're a top 2 or 3 team, which I think is saying something in the West for however long Giannis plays at that level. I'm going for it, but especially if I can have Giannis.
There are some big decisions to make for Rafael Stone, the general manager, this offseason for the Rockets. So a couple of things that you brought up there. Fred VanVleet has a team option for 44 and change. Right now they're under the first apron. They're likely over if they pick it up. The more likely scenario here is that they decline the option and then extend him at a lower price over a number of years. I would be okay with that because he's that veteran leadership that you were talking about, although he's extremely streaky. Speaking of streaky, if you were going to make a move, and I'm team let it bake, I've been thinking about this a lot. I
You
really
are
kind of want to
longer.
see. Yeah, I mean, they have so many young
Okay.
pieces, and they remind me, not to say that they're new Oklahoma City. I don't think that they're that good, but they do have so many young pieces that are already the 2 seed in the Western Conference, and they're 20. All these main pieces are 23 and younger. I want to see. Give me at least another half season of Jalen Green to see if he can become more consistent, because he was not good in this series. That was my one thing where if you're gonna take a swing, he's probably the guy that you unplug for more consistency and better shooting, because he had what, 8 points on 8 shots in game 7 in 30 minutes. Not nearly good enough on a night when they needed offense. He had one good game out of 7. That was game 2 when he went for 38 points. Bill, even though he went for 38 points in game 2, he still only averaged 13 points for the series, which really speaks to how bad he was in the other 6 games. So if you're going to unplug somebody, it would be him. But I just want to, if there's a non-zero chance, there's a world, Bill, where that kid figures it out and becomes like just a superstar scorer.
You're right. And look, on the argument for let it bake, because I think you said it's a really tough call. I think it's really close which way you should go. There's an argument that they're the 2 seed because they were light years ahead of schedule. That alone, notwithstanding losing in the first round, and by the way, losing in 7 games to the Golden State Warriors, that's no small feat just to push them to 7. That they're just ahead of schedule. And that maybe people like me that are pushing for a change are assessing them too harshly because they actually overachieved for where they should be for how young they are. And I also would love to see if Amen Thompson can get to the point where he can get in the gym and learn to shoot. Because I think, John, for me, the big difference in the Rockets and the Thunder, and you're right, they're Thunder light. It's a similar comp, but the Thunder are light years better because the Thunder have had the entire time of developing probable MVP. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will probably be the MVP this year. He's obviously a superstar. They don't have that in Houston. So I think part of the question is, what is the likelihood one of those guys develop into that level of a player, even 2 or 3 years from now, versus we're never going to get that and we have to go and find it. That's up to Stone. That's sort of like, that's the big question. Do you have anyone on the roster now who is capable of making that leap eventually? Maybe.
I think they have 2. Amen Thompson is a superstar, a budding superstar. Yeah, his outside shot for sure needs work. However, this isn't a Ben Simmons scenario where the guy can't score. He's a scorer and a finisher, right, and he's not afraid to shoot either, which is all to his positive. So, if he can get any semblance of a 3-point shot, even if he was like slightly below league average, that would be a bonus. But he's not afraid to take them. And then Alperen Şengün, his mini Joker routine, like that kid at under 23 years old, like all I'm saying is Joker wasn't when they decided in Denver to go with Nikola Jokic and move on from Yusuf Nurkic having been drafted ahead of Joker. And then they decided, oh no, it's actually this other guy. We're going to go with the guy that we took in the second round. His numbers back then were like almost quaint. Like I went back and looked at that season when they moved on from Yusuf Nurkic and you're like, oh, these are pretty good numbers. He wasn't anywhere near the triple-double 3 out of 4 MVP machine that he's become. I'm not saying Şengün's going to become that guy. I'm just saying I want to see it. Let these kids play for a minute. And if you're going to make a move, I don't know that I'd go with KD, who's 37 years old, or Giannis, who doesn't solve your spacing issues. I think I just look for like shooting on the margins. I mean, what if Reed Shepherd is your shooter? He didn't even crack the rotation this year.
By the way, credit to you. You've been on the Şengün train for a very long time, going back to last season. Let me ask you this, and maybe this is a little too far in the weeds, but I don't think it is. You're trying to figure out the timeline, and we're having this conversation as if it's in a vacuum, right? As if you're the Houston Rockets and what's best for you. But if Wembanyama is going to be healthy, and I hope that he is, right? Obviously, he's had the rest of the season off. There's a world where the Spurs become not unbeatable, but there's a force that could be rising in the West in a year or two that you may look back and say, man, we actually had this sort of window for a couple of years before Wemby really got his arms around his powers and Stephon Castle developed, or they added insert Giannis, insert whoever it is. Do you maybe want to speed it up a little bit when you look at the terrain and say, well, there's this Wemby guy that's here, and maybe the Spurs are added to this mix of other teams that make the West in 2 or 3 years almost unbeatable?
I think that's fair. I think you should be concerned about Wemby, but also the rest of the Western Conference is loaded. And even in a scenario where you add Giannis or KD, and again, those have their own complications. One, because as we mentioned, KD's age doesn't fit their timeline, and then on the other side, Giannis is incredible, but like, which players are you unplugging? And that doesn't solve your shooting issues. But let's just say that they added one of those players. They're still like what, third best in the NBA? I mean, like, you still have Oklahoma City and Boston ahead of them, right?
Yeah, and look, I'll be really curious how Minnesota, the new ownership group, manages the Timberwolves in the years ahead. But if the Timberwolves beat the Warriors in this upcoming series and they've made back-to-back conference finals with an emerging young Anthony Edwards, then all at a minimum, right? I mean, that's another team that I think you start to put in the not just knocking on the door, but sort of inside the door conversation. So I mean, look, the West is going to be really, really hard. I wonder if in 2 or 3 years when Anthony Edwards is even better than he is now, and there's Wemby, and the Thunder are just going to continue to improve. And as we have discussed, Sam Presti has a lot of options there to supplement and sort of manage the CBA and the restrictions there with young players, or to make a big swing if he ever feels like he need to. I worry the West is going to get harder and harder as the years go, and I'm not sure if Houston's going to make a leap where they're 3 times or 2 times better if they just let it cook. They just stay as they are.
It's a fair concern, but man, I know that we're in the middle of the playoffs right now, but I cannot wait to see what they do in Houston with this offseason, because all the things that it's just, there's so many different permutations and ways that they can go. We didn't even get to Jabari Smith and Tari Eason are extension eligible, and Steven Adams, who had an awesome series for them when they were playing the double big lineup, and even when they were just using him as the single big and giving Şengün a little below. He was fantastic. He's a free agent. They got to make a decision on that one too. I can't wait to see what Houston does. My team, the team I've rooted for my whole life, the Houston Rockets. Fantastic series for them in a season. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to get to that other Game 7 from this weekend, the Clippers and the Nuggets. The Nuggets are marching on, and the Clippers are into, Bill, what will be a very difficult offseason for them. We'll discuss that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Getting to the other Game 7 from this weekend, the Clippers and the Nuggets. It was the Nuggets prevailing. This one was not particularly close, Bill. They won this one by 19. They were up by 35. They blew a 20-point lead to the Wolves last year. They did not blow this one. There's a little bit of vengeance for them. The aggregate point differential was interesting. The Clippers actually outscored them over the course of 7 games by 4 points total, but that doesn't matter because the Nuggets are moving on. The Clippers are into their offseason. I want to talk about the Game 7, though, for the Nuggets, Bill. All 5 starters, plus Russ, who we'll get to in a second, were in double figures. Joker, he got to rest for a lot of the fourth quarter because they had such a lead. We were talking about the Warriors earlier having to turn around and get right into their series with the Wolves. I think that being so far ahead of the Clippers in Game 7 and being able to rest Joker, they brought him back in because the lead got a little bit closer, but not having to play him the entire fourth quarter was a big win for them.
I got so excited about this and eventually getting to Harden that I jumped the gun earlier and just like did this earlier in the show. To your point, and I didn't know that aggregate score, that the Clippers were the better basketball team. And watching this game and just watching it get away from the Clippers. And look, Denver played really well. It's a Game 7. They've been there, done that. They have the best player on earth, blah, blah, blah. Still, despite that, I thought to the eye test, the Clippers are clearly a better basketball team. And they still found a way to lose. And we should talk about Harden in that respect. But it's also just, when you've got Jokic, I wonder, John, to what degree, if you're everybody else. I mean, Russell Westbrook always thinks he's the best player on the floor. But outside of Russ, I wonder how much just having Nikola there makes every other guy on that Denver team have a sense of swagger or self-confidence or calm that maybe you wouldn't have if you were playing in a Game 7 without him.
Well, it certainly seemed to translate. I mean, all of those guys played really well. Aaron Gordon had a team-high 22. Christian Brown looked fantastic. And I'm so glad you brought up Russ, because Russ went for 16, 5, and 5. He had 5 steals, Bill. And then my favorite play of the entire playoffs to date. In the fourth quarter, they were up by so many points, and they were so clearly going to win the game that Russell Westbrook decided to go full Russ. He throws down a dunk in the fourth quarter, and he decides to hang on the rim and swing back and forth like he's a kid on a swing in his backyard, and he just was screaming, and he knew he was going to get teched, and he didn't stop doing it. He jumps off the rim and he starts screaming at the crowd, and the crowd is yelling back at him. And so we got like the full Russ experience, not just in that game, but in the series. So after the game, Bill, Russ is asked about it. And sometimes you get good Russ, sometimes you get bad Russ. And Russ said he's kind of aware of that. Here's what he said.
My ability to be able to be a force of nature on the floor is what I pride myself on. So whatever that looks like, it may be a turnover, it may be a missed shot, but it may be a steal, maybe a dunk, maybe a missed 3, maybe a made 3. It's going to be all of that. It's going to be everything. So you just take it for how it comes, and whatever happens, you go with it. And I've always been like that. As long as I leave it on the floor and God willing to be able to go out and continue to compete, I'm grateful for it.
I'm so in. I'm so in. The Russ Renaissance, the Russessance, I'm in on all of it, Bill.
Russessance. Dude, is that the most self-aware player in the NBA?
Yes.
Like, that is, when I saw that, I've been around Russ a lot when he was younger and I was younger, and he was in Oklahoma City. I used to go there a lot. It was near where I lived. And just spend time talking to him when he was sort of an emerging star. He's edgy, he's complicated. He's also like really smart and likable. If you're right, like if you're not competing against him, he's a really likable guy. But that is nonetheless the most like on point self-analysis, not just him, but I think any NBA player I can remember in a really long time.
Self-aware is exactly right. I had the exact same thought when I was watching it initially. Same thought when we were replaying it here, that there are so many players in the NBA who will, get their backs up. And we're going to talk about one of them in a second, in James Harden, or deny the obvious or pretend like there's something that they're not. And Russ is like, no, I'm a hot mess sometimes. Sometimes that works out and sometimes it doesn't, but you're going to get all of it. I thought he was fantastic in the first round series, and we'll see what happens when they meet Oklahoma City, but that's going to be a fun series. And we're going to get to that in a second. We should talk about the Clippers. The Clippers, I agree with you on the eye test, Bill. And again, on the aggregate, they were plus 4 points over the course of 7 games, but it doesn't work that way, unfortunately, for them. Ty Lue, who had been undefeated in Game 7s, suffers his first Game 7 loss ever, Bill, on his birthday. It was his birthday on Game 7, and he lost that one. Kawhi showed up. Kawhi was good for the entire series, and he was healthy. Team high 22 points. But now, Bill, we get to James Harden, who did not show up. And I talked about this on HQ with Hakeem after the game. He had 13 assists. Okay, that's fine. He was distributing. But my whole thing was, who are you distributing to? On a night where they were sorely in need of offense, he's setting up all these other guys who, outside of Kawhi, were all grossly inferior offensive options compared to James Harden. That's a night when they needed James Harden to shoot and to score. He had 7 points on just 8 shots, Bill. It's unacceptable. He's now lost Game 7s with 4 different teams: the Clippers, the Sixers, the Nets, and the Rockets. He just has not shown up in Game 7s.
I'm glad you brought that stat up because it's stunning. And in his last 5 elimination games, he's averaging 13 points per game on 31% shooting in those games. I mean, he's just, John, we have enough sample size now, right? This isn't a hot take. He is awful. He is reliably bad in big basketball games. Full stop. And that is a major problem if you are relying on him. And the thing that's really a bummer about this, he's a really nice guy. Like, I really like talking to him. He's really interesting. When Kawhi was out for huge stretches of the season, and people like me, probably wrongly, doubted the Clippers and thought that they were some, cute little spunky defensive team, he carried them offensively. I mean, Norman Powell was really good too, but I mean, this was the Harden show. And you brought about you said the Renaissance, which is so good. I mean, there was this was like a James Harden Renaissance too.
Yeah.
And then it all just turns to dust in the playoffs like it always does. And I'm not sure there's a solution for this. This is who he is in the playoffs.
Yeah, he was fantastic earlier. Actually, for the entire season, he was really good. He had a fantastic season. When Kawhi was out and he wasn't available and he was healthy, because they decided, and rightly so, we're going to bring Kawhi along slowly during the regular season. We're not going to force him back because we need him to be healthy during the playoffs. Well, that worked out. Like, their whole plan worked out. Kawhi was healthy for the playoffs. Harden helped buoy the team that you and I didn't have very high expectations for. I had them on the outside of the playoffs looking in. I didn't think that they were even going to make the play-in. They proved me wrong. But then, they get into this postseason, and then the Clippers just become the Clippers, and Harden becomes the Harden, which is a shame because earlier in the series, there were moments where you're like, oh, James Harden is like, he's come to play this playoffs. And then, it just all crumbles to dust.
I hope I'm not stepping on sound that you're going to throw to, and if I am, the sound will be better. But there was an amazing moment post-game where a reporter trying to, I think, ask a sort of, which is fine, softball question of Kawhi Leonard said, is there anything you and James can take from this that's positive? And basically Kawhi goes, oh, no, man. I mean, it was even, I think it dawned on Kawhi. No, this is because you brought up an alternate universe. In an alternate universe where James Harden, and these are human beings, right? They figure things out. Some guys struggle, go to football. John Elway was a guy that could never sort of win the big game, and he was the master of the 2-minute drill, except in the playoffs. and then he won his last 2 Super Bowls, right? LeBron James, and maybe a little unfairly, but certain people, maybe me, who covered him day to day, maligned him for not being able to win the big game in his first year in Miami. They blew that, whatever it was, 2-1 series lead against the Mavs, and then he figured it out, and obviously he won and won and won and won. Like, there's a world where Harden could have figured it out. I'm past believing in that. In that world, I know the Thunder are really, really good, and they'd be the favorites. In that world, the Clippers are good enough to beat anybody if things fall the right way, because their defense is extraordinary. And you brought up the fact that Kawhi, at least while he was healthy, and he was healthy in this series, and who knows if he would have stayed healthy for attempting 12 more wins in the postseason going through mid-June. But in that world where Harden is awesome and is the guy in the regular season, like, this isn't some thought experiment. They could have been a championship level team and certainly a conference finals level team. And so it's such a bummer for the Clippers because they were good enough. And James Harden is the reason, I think, in large part, they're home.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity for the Clippers for sure. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, though, I just want to put a little bit of a bow on this Clippers thing and discuss what they do in the offseason, because they don't have any easy options here. And then also, bad playoffs for both teams in LA. I want to ask you, who had the better season? We'll do that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can also find us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. Hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. There's a little bell symbol. Click on that. You'll get notified when we go live. We will be live tomorrow night following tomorrow night's playoff games. I believe it's Wolves and Warriors, so come and join us on YouTube for that one. All right, but last thing about the LA teams. Obviously, neither of them wanted to crash out in the first round. Both the Lakers and the Clippers did. The Clippers are the oldest team in the NBA. Kawhi Leonard was healthy, still couldn't get him out of the first round. James Harden was good, except for in Game 7 and Game 5, still couldn't get him out of the first round. But then on the other side, the Lakers have Luka and LeBron obviously is going to be 41 next year. Who had the better season?
Micro Clippers had a better season because they didn't get humiliated in 5 games. But on the sort of broader picture, I think the Lakers did simply because they got Luka Doncic for the future. But if you put that aside and just this season as its own thing, I think the Clippers, I mean, they went 7 games. They made a series of it. They didn't give up, as easily and as weakly as the Lakers seem to. So I think the answer is the Clippers, but the premise of your question is correct. Both organizations are pretty miserable right about now.
I think you're right that just in terms of the basketball for this year, it was the Clippers because they exceeded expectations. The expectations were pretty low for them. Moving forward, yeah, big picture, it's the Lakers because the Clippers are the oldest team in the NBA, and their free agents include James Harden, Nico Batum, and Ben Simmons. We'll see what happens with that. They have no cap space. Their first round pick goes to, of course it does, Oklahoma City. It's swapped actually, so they go from 24th to 30th. And then they're in the loaded Western Conference, and I have them behind a whole host of teams again going into next season. So we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, going to be a tough offseason for them. Let's go to the second round, Bill. It's upon us. We had our first game yesterday, the Pacers and the Cavs. And Bill, if you'd asked me yesterday who I was picking in this series, I was going to say Cavs in 6. I would like to amend that to Cavs in 9 because the Pacers, your Pacers, won by 9 in Game 1. They looked amazing. That game was fantastic. Amazing. It was back and forth. The Cavs kept climbing back into the game, Bill, over and over and over again. And over and over and over again, the Pacers answered the bell, and they ended up winning this. They looked awesome yesterday.
They were incredible. I'm just going to keep repeating this stat because I think it's amazing. They got off to Indiana a terrible start. Their first 25 games, they were under 500. Halliburton was bad. Their defense was atrocious. And then something changed in mid-December. And since then, and that is a huge sample size of games, right? We are talking almost 65 games, not quite that many games. They have the 4th most wins in the NBA over that stretch, behind the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavs. They're a top 10 offense and defense over that stretch. This is a great basketball team. They are a great basketball team going all the way back to mid-December. You can measure it. I think on the broadcast, they did it since January 1st this year. I don't know that they're going to win the series. I don't think they are, but I think that they can.
Oh, they absolutely can. I mean, since January 1st, as you mentioned, there's only 3 teams that have been better than them. And including last night, Bill, they basically now have the exact same record as the Cavs, who they beat and are the number 1 seed. Last night, they shot 53% from the floor, almost 53% from 3, 93% from the line. They just over and over again were just like, I mean, and we should mention the Cavs didn't have Darius Garland, and that certainly would help
Right.
the Cavs in that. But man, they looked every bit as good as the Cavs. Obviously, they won the game. Who do you have in this series?
I'm gonna pose something to you that you're gonna hate.
Okay.
I know that you're gonna hate it because we've been working for a year and a half, but I want to put it into the universe. So we agree that I don't know, Stephen Curry is an amazing playoff player, right? And I think we agree that James Harden's a bad playoff player. That there's a spectrum and a reality. Donovan Mitchell better start playing well, and they better win this series, because I think this is the year where you can start to put him in the. For me, you can start thinking about the James Harden category if things go badly. I know he had 33 points. It took 30 shots. He was it 1 of 11 from the 3-point line? And if you geek out like I did today, and you go back through his game logs over his playoff career, and don't just look at elimination games, you look at series when they were 2-2 or they were up 2-1, there's a lot of 9 for 27, 7 for 21s. And I know that he wasn't shooting well and he got to the rim and he created some offense. Cleveland should win the series, but especially with, you're right, and Garland being back would take some pressure off, and you could make the argument maybe Donovan was trying to do too much, right? Reverting back to before this year he kind of took a step back and let Garland sort of get more shots and was a selfless player. Maybe Donovan was trying to do too much. I just think we should keep an eye on, he's never made it out of the second round. He has no excuse. He has a remarkable basketball team that he is the best player of. They're deep. You better start playing well, Donovan Mitchell, or there's going to be some James Harden conversations.
I knew that you were going to flag that. He had a game high 33 last night. It was the 8th straight time he's started a series by scoring 30 or more points. He broke MJ's record and they lost the game, which is why I would like to amend. Which is why I'd like to amend from Cavs in 6 to Cavs in 7, but I guess I'll stick with it because you shouldn't be allowed to like get a preview of the test before you answer any of the questions. Which way are you going as we go to break here?
I mean, I was going to go Cavs in 6 initially before the first game, so I'll do that. But if there's going to be an upset in one of these rounds, right? Really, which means if the Knicks are going to win, or the Pacers are going to win, or Denver's going to win, because I don't know that there's an upset in the other series. I think they're pretty evenly matched. It's the Pacers for the reasons that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, quick timeout, and then we're going to preview and give predictions for the other 2 series that are starting this evening. We got Knicks and Celtics, highly anticipated, much awaited. And then, of course, the Nuggets are right back at it against Oklahoma City this evening. We'll do that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Round 2 begins in earnest tonight, Bill. A little preview and prediction. We'll start with the Eastern Conference, Knicks and Celtics. This was what we were all waiting for. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be very good, but at least in terms of the NBA and eyeballs, it's going to get a lot of attention. During the regular season, the Celtics won all 4 games, and they won it handily, Bill. What happened here with this? Plus 65 points in the aggregate in those games. Now, one of them was the opening game where the Celtics just absolutely throttled the Knicks in the season opener. I think the Knicks would like to hope that they're going to be better in this series, but they were also 0-10 versus Oklahoma City Cavs and the Celtics in the series. Now, they've advanced out of the first round for the first time in 3 straight years, for the first time since 98-2000. So I guess that's a little bit of a win, but this was the test that they were always asking for, and now they've got it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am so skeptical that the Knicks are even that good of a basketball team, although I am here for Jalen Brunson, and I'm an absolute believer. And the guy is just amazing, especially this time of year in these kind of games. But unless there are injuries or Brunson and Brown being banged up is much more problematic than I think we think it is, or than I think it is. I would, if we were going to rank every team that remains, I power rank them. I might rank the Knicks last.
Yeah. I think I probably would. I mean, and there's different reasons that you can get into that, but you mentioned it earlier in the show. I'm not sure that the Nuggets are a good team, but they've got the best player, and the Pacers are playing really well right now. So yeah, I probably would put the Knicks last. And curiously, Bill, in the series, in the 4 games that they played against the Celtics, not surprisingly, because they shoot a ton of threes. They made 84 threes. They shot 50%, and they made 43% from 3. The reason why I said it's curious is that part of the theory of the case for the Knicks was, we've got Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. We should be good perimeter defenders. They haven't been, at least not in the Celtics series. Now, we just saw the Magic, and the Magic lost that series, but they did a really good job in 5 games limiting the Celtics on the perimeter. Do you have any hope that the Knicks will be able to do that?
I mean, look, you're right. The Magic held on average Boston to 17 fewer threes per game than they took in the regular season, but it didn't matter. That's the thing; it had no significance in part because Orlando can't score. That's not a problem for New York. Yeah, I mean, there's a few X factors that are interesting. I think that is an X factor. Just Boston having a couple poor shooting games, shooting 44 threes and hitting 12 of them or 13 of them a couple times is an X factor. And Jalen Brunson's an X factor. None of it is big enough. They're not big enough X factors that I'm rethinking my evaluation of who's going to win the series.
Yeah, me too. All right, prediction time. I'm going to go Celtics in 5.
Me too. Okay, so we're going to disrespect the Knicks together in the same way.
You and I now have taken the Cavs in the same number of games and the Celtics in the same number of games. This is almost certainly spelling disaster. All right, let's move to the Western Conference, the Nuggets and Oklahoma City. Season series tied at 2-2. Oklahoma City heavy favorites in this bill, -900, Nuggets plus 610. The Oklahoma City Thunder, I think, are clearly the better team, but the Nuggets do have, depending on what's going to happen in the MVP race, the best player in the world, independent of the MVP race is what I was trying to say. I'm really excited about this series, Bill, because you're getting SGA versus Joker. This reminds me of a couple years ago when Joel Embiid ended up as the MVP, and then in the playoffs, Joker came through and just steamrolled everybody and was like, yeah, you could hold that trophy if you want, but I'm the best player.
So I'm a believer in Oklahoma City. The odds say that they're going to dominate. This is their first test. I thought Memphis would be a test, and Memphis fired Taylor Jenkins, and their lack of effort, and obviously John Morant getting hurt didn't help. I want to see what happens when the Thunder get punched in the nose for the first time in a playoff series where they are expected to make the finals. Anything short of a finals appearance is a failure by Oklahoma City. I think they're going to handle it. I think they're going to be fine. But I don't know. You don't know until you see it. And so that will be really interesting. And I hope the Nuggets push them early so that we get an answer to that question pretty quickly.
That's interesting too, because they've been off for a while. They swept the Grizzlies. They had a plus 78 point differential in that series, which is the 6th largest point differential in a 4-game sweep in NBA history. There was never any pressure by the Grizzlies where you were like, okay, this is going to be a problem for Oklahoma City. On the one hand, I don't think that I'm not a huge believer in rest versus rust. I'll take rest all day long and we'll see how it goes, especially because the Nuggets just came out of a 7-game series that was really hard fought against the Clippers. And yes, they got to rest Joker in the 4th quarter, but you're still like one night removed, and here you are back against the best team in the Western Conference, the best team in basketball. That's a heavy lift for a Nuggets team that, as you said, in terms of the entire team makeup, not nearly as good as Oklahoma City. Which way are you going in this? Because I do really love that top line SGA Joker matchup.
I think Jokic is going to just be all worldly, and I think it's Thunder in 6, which to me feels like giving Denver a lot of benefit of the doubt, because you could go Thunder in 4 and I wouldn't be mad at you, but I'll go Oklahoma City in 6 games, wins on the road.
I am also taking Oklahoma City in 6 games. We have now agreed on 3 of the 4 series. Tomorrow, we're going to preview the other series. Hopefully, we get a little daylight between the two of us, because I get a little nervous when you and I are exactly aligned on this. Do you think it will say anything about, because at some point during the series, we anticipate that the MVP award will be awarded and likely to SGA. But do we think this head-to-head matchup will say anything about the two players, or, that's independent from the regular season?
Only if one of them plays poorly or there's a huge sort of level difference. And I don't think there will be. I mean, Jokic is going to be great, and I have every reason to believe SGA will be amazing. So no, we've had some sort of showdowns like this where one guy doesn't play as well. I don't think that's going to happen here.
I can't wait for it. It's going to be really gangbusters television. Please come and watch that and join us too. We'll be on CBS Sports HQ after the games. And then tomorrow we're going to be right back here on CBS Sports Network at 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll discuss tonight's games. And then we'll also preview Bills Wolves against the Warriors as their 2nd round series takes off. It should be a lot of fun. And then, as I mentioned, we'll be live on YouTube after that series tomorrow night. So come and join us on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. But for now, for our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, I'm John Gonzalez. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.